So hello aspirants, this is the lecture for Indian Forestry. We will be studying the silvicultural systems, and under that we will be seeing the shelter wood system. Previously, in previous lecture, we have already covered the clear filling system. We have also seen the system of diffuse regeneration as well as the accessory system. In this particular lecture, as I have already stated, that we are going to see the shelter wood system, which also comes under your system of concentrated regeneration. So let's start. The first subtopic under your shelter wood system is your uniform system. Now before going further, firstly let's understand what is a uniform system and what broadly covers the shelter wood system. So over here, this is a picture that has been taken from your Manikandan book. As you can see, the entire forest has been divided into 4 different groups, right? So each group has been named as a periodic block. Now what is periodic block? We will be studying very shortly. So in this particular periodic block, the regeneration cycle will be taken for 25 years. For the next 25 years, we will be taking the regeneration in the periodic block 2. Then in the periodic block 3, subsequent 25 years, and after that next 25 years we will be taking the regeneration cycle in the periodic block 4. So just have this concept in mind that periodic block means a particular area or a particular region in a given forest. So now let's understand what is the aim of the uniform system. So the aim is over here to obtain the concentrated regeneration in a given compartment. Okay. As the shelter wood system is a part of your concentrated regeneration system. We have already understood what is a concentrated regeneration system in our previous lecture. So it is also the main aim of the uniform system over here is to obtain concentrated regeneration in a given compartment. Thus, the canopy is entirely opened in that compartment. So in order to bring, let's go back again to this particular diagram. So over here, what happens is, in the first 25 years, when we are going to consider the periodic block 1, the regeneration felling or the regeneration cycle will be carried out in this particular periodic block itself. So when the new crops will come or when the new forest will come over here in this periodic block, it will be even aged. So consider this particular fact. Please retain this particular fact in your mind that the crop that will come in the periodic block 1, it will be even aged. Now the objectives. Let's understand the objectives. The first objective is to regulate the light condition inside the forest as well as to supply the seeds naturally. Okay, these are the objectives for the uniform system. The examples are very much important over here. First is your cheed and deodar. For these forest plantations, we generally use uniform system. Now the felling pattern. It is very much important to understand what is the felling pattern. Seedling felling, secondary felling, and then the final felling. These are the steps that usually carried out during the felling pattern in the uniform system. Now what is the seedling felling, secondary felling, and final felling? Let's switch to another diagram. So over here you can see that this is the top view. In the initial stage, this is the top view of a given forest. So when the seedling felling is going to carry out in the subsequent seedling felling, you can see that certain trees have been cut out. These the brown dots that you can see over here are the seeds. Okay, once you are planting the seeds, you are also cutting the trees so that the sun rays can penetrate inside the forest. This is the seedling felling stage. In the secondary felling, what happens? You are going to cut more number of trees are going to fell, and the seeds that are there in the seedling felling stage now has started growing, and this light green color has been represented by those trees which are right now at a growing stage. So that once you start cutting down more number of trees in the secondary felling, more sunlight penetration is going to come, more sun rays will be penetrating inside the forest, and thus the new trees will grow more and more. And in the final filling stage, what is going to happen? The entire old trees, the dark green trees that you can see in the secondary felling stage has been cut down. Only 1 or 2 has been remained, and the light green has entirely been grown up. So this is the final felling. So this is the concept of seedling felling, secondary felling and final felling. Please remember these three felling stages because it is very much important and it makes the entire base of your shelter wood system. So the crop obtained, as I have already told, is even aged. Now what is a regeneration period? Let's understand some of the basic definitions. What is a regeneration period? What is a regeneration interval? What is a periodic block? So the regeneration period is the period that is required for the regeneration of whole periodic block. Okay, that is the regeneration period. So in this particular diagram, you can see the regeneration period is 25 years because for this particular periodic block, the number of years to grow the entire forest starting from felling till the growth stage is 25 years. So that's why the regeneration period is how much? It is 25 years. Then what is the regeneration interval? The interval between seedling felling and the final felling. Okay, we have already understood what is seedling felling and final felling. So the seedling felling and the final felling, the time period between these seedling felling and final felling is your regeneration interval. And what is a periodic block? We have already seen what is a periodic block in this particular diagram. Okay, so this is a periodic block. The entire forest has been divided into 4 different periodic blocks over here. So a periodic block is a particular region in which the entire regeneration is carried out. Okay, so it is a part of the forest to be regenerated in a particular period. Okay, so let's understand the types of periodic block. See, there are 2 different types of periodic block. One is your fixed, another one is your floating. In the case of fixed periodic block, the area of the periodic block remains fixed for each working plan. Whereas in the case of floating, the area keeps on changing. Now, what is a working plan? See, this is a chapter in your Manikandan book, chapter number 13. We already have dealt about the working plan in a separate video. You can access the playlist and can watch that particular lecture. Now let's understand what are the factors which affect the length of the regeneration period. See, there are 6 different factors and it is very much important because it has already been asked in the forestry paper of the UPSC examination. So the first one is your frequency of the seed years. What is a seed year? A seed year is that particular year in which the tree produces good number of seeds. If the tree produces good number of seeds, then the progeny of the tree will be much more better. So higher the frequency, higher is the chance of getting a better regeneration period. That is the first one. Second is your light requirement. Third is your climatic factors. There are different climatic factors like better environment should be there and there should not be any sort of drought. So these are the various climatic factors which affect the regeneration period. Then soil condition, similarly weed growth and fire. So these are the factors which affect your length of the regeneration period. Next is your advantages and disadvantages. In the case of advantages, there is little risk of your soil deterioration. Then marking and felling is very simple in the case of uniform system. Invasion of weeds is also less and the supervision is very much easy. Disadvantages, the first one is skill is required. Second is it is high time taking. Another one is in the steep slopes it is not viable. Okay, uniform system you generally prefer for your plain regions, and in the case of hilly regions uniform system is unviable or non-viable. So next we will be seeing the group system. In the case of group system, it is again a subtype of your shelter wood system. So in the group system, what we used to do is in a given periodic block, we will carry out the regeneration cycle or the regeneration or the felling cycle in the form of groups. So this is the top view of a given periodic block of a forest. Okay, this is the top view. The green region is the tree, the top portion of the tree or the canopy of the tree, and you can see the different groups. This is the first group, this is the second group, this is the third, and this is the fourth. In the given first group, you can see how we have carried out the various felling cycles. In the initial stage, that is in the first stage, we have carried out the initial felling in the centermost region. Okay, in the centermost part, we would have carried the initial felling. Then after some time, we have carried the intermediate felling, and then the initial felling has switched to this particular region. And then after some more time, the initial felling has been carried out in the outermost circle. The intermediate or the secondary felling has been carried out in the middle circle, and the final felling has been carried out in the innermost circle. So this particular initial felling, intermediate felling, and the final felling has been carried out in all the groups. That is why this system is called as your group system. So the regeneration felling is carried out in a group, as we have already seen. It is also known as Bavarian Feldschlag. Kindly remember this name, or try to remember it and try to reproduce it in your examination paper, because it is a German terminology. All the silvicultural operation has been designed by German scientists, and that's why the name of the silvicultural operation turned out to be in German language. So kindly remember this particular name. Crops obtained, it is uneven aged in starting but becomes even aged as in the end of the rotation period. Okay, so remember this particular thing. What are the types of crops? It is uneven aged in the starting period, but as the age progresses or as we go to the end of the rotation period, we generally get even aged crops. What are the advantages? It produces young crops that develop in more natural way. That is the first one. And the second one is little danger to the seed bearers. This is another thing, another advantage of your group system. In the case of disadvantage, first one is difficult in slopes. That is, it cannot be carried out in your slopey terrain or hilly terrain. Then weeding operation is again difficult in the case of group system. Similarly, supervision is also difficult. Example is very much important. For Deodar system, we generally carry out the silvicultural operation of group system. Next one is your shelter wood strip system. See, over here what we used to do is we carry out the shelter wood operation but in the form of strips. So as you can see, this particular figure has been taken from your Manikandan book. So the given periodic block, again understand, not the entire forest but the periodic block has been divided into different strips, and the initial felling, the secondary felling, and the final felling is carried out in the form of strips. So this is your shelter wood system. In the end cycle, like once the regeneration has been carried out, the forest will look like in this kind of wavy pattern. Okay, firstly you have divided the entire periodic block into different strips, and then you started carrying out the initial felling, secondary felling, and final felling. The forest, if you'll see from a distant or from a particular distance or from even from the top, you will see this sort of wavy pattern in the given forest. So what are the various issues? First one is that laying out of the strip is very difficult. Like how you will divide a given periodic block into different strips, it is very difficult. Felling becomes cumbersome. And the third one is the logging and the transportation of the timber is also very difficult. Next one is the Wagner Blender Saumschlag. It is another German name, and this is another subtype of your shelter wood system. So Wagner Blender Saumschlag. Now what it is, let's understand from a given diagram. So let's understand the Wagner Blender Saumschlag from this particular diagram. See, this is the first one, this is the second diagram. The second diagram has been taken from your Manikandan book. So let's first understand the first diagram. There are directions: north, east, south, and west. So in the case of Wagner Blender Saumschlag, what happens is we divide the given periodic block into different strips, and the felling will happen from east to the west direction. Okay, in the given this particular strip, consider this particular strip, the felling will happen from the east to west direction, and the strip progresses from your north to south direction. Again, understand this particular concept. Felling, how it is happening? From east to west. Okay, the felling will happen from east to west, but the strip progresses from your north to south. This particular thing shows the same concept. That is, the strip is getting progress from north to south, but the felling within the strip will progress from your east to west direction. So it is a modification of your shelter wood strip system. We already have seen that the periodic block is divided into strips, and how the felling carries out and how the strip progresses. Regeneration felling is carried out in narrow strips, that we have already seen. Felling is done in a strip in east to west direction. Okay, and the strip progresses from north to south direction. Crop obtained, it is even aged if you go from east to west direction, but uneven aged if you start going from north to south direction. That is, if you go from east to west, from here to here, you will have even aged forest. But once you start going from north to south direction, you will have uneven aged forest. Another method is your strip and group systems. It is the combination of your shelter wood strip system and the group system. So nothing new over here. You have to combine both the shelter wood strip system and the group system. The diagram is self-explanatory over here. Just understand what the diagram wanted to say, that strips are designed in a given periodic block, and again the strip is converted into different sort of groups. Okay, and in the particular group you will carry out your initial filling, intermediate filling, and your final filling. So this is your combination of strip and group system. So that's why the name strip and group system. Now the another one is your wedge system. This diagram has been taken from your Manikandan book. So felling is done in the strips. The felling, as you can see from the green color, the felling is done in the form of strips, but ultimately that strip will take the form of your wedge. So that's why the name wedge system. So it can happen that UPSC will directly ask a question that write the entire forms of shelter wood system. Sometimes they generally ask this question in the interview. So try to remember what is a wedge system, that's it. Now irregular shelter wood system, this is now very much important. What is a irregular shelter wood system? See, this is called as Swiss Fimmelschlag or Baden Fimmelschlag. Try to remember this German name. The regeneration filling is done in the form of group system. This is very important. The regeneration filling is done in the form of group system. Group system, kindly remember this thing. But as the regeneration period is long, we get uneven crop. Okay, because the regeneration period becomes very much long, so you will get an uneven sort of crop. But the form of regeneration operation that you are adopting is a group system. So regeneration filling is done in the form of group system, but regeneration period is long, that's why you get uneven crop. It is a compromise between selection system and group system. Again, this is very much important. It is a compromise between your selection system and group system. Do remember this point. Then Indian irregular shelter wood system. Previously we have seen the irregular shelter wood system. Now we are observing Indian irregular shelter wood system. This is also called as Punjab shelter wood system in the case of Deodar forest. Okay, this is another name. There is a research paper written by Glover. So he has said that it is also called as the Punjab shelter wood system in the case of Deodar forest. The crop generation or the crop regeneration system follows uniform system. Now this is important. In the Indian irregular shelter wood system, the crop regeneration follows your uniform system. Whereas in the case of irregular shelter wood system, only irregular shelter wood system, the regeneration felling is done in the form of group system. So over here, group system was there, irregular shelter wood system. But in the case of Indian irregular shelter wood system, what we are adopting? Uniform system. But crop opens up irregularly, so that's why we get uneven aged crop. So crop obtained is uneven aged, mainly in your plain or hilly regions. It is a compromise between your selection system and uniform system. So in the case of Indian irregular shelter wood system, it is a compromise between selection system and uniform system. Whereas in the case of irregular shelter wood system, it was a compromise between your selection system and group system. The example is Shoria robusta. Kindly remember this thing, Shoria robusta, or for Sal regeneration, we generally adopt Indian irregular shelter wood system. UPSC generally asks a question, especially in the mains, that what sort of system or regeneration method you will adopt for Shoria robusta. So do remember this thing. If Shoria robusta comes, then you have to write Indian irregular shelter wood system. Now the previous year questions. Explain uniform system which is used to manage the Pinus Roxburghi forest in Himachal Pradesh. Very easy. You have to just explain what is uniform system. Do remember to make the diagrams. Describe the major factors which affect the regeneration period in a periodic block. We already have covered that particular aspect also. How can a forest with a shade bearer and light demanded tree species be managed under uniform shelter wood system? So you again have to explain a uniform shelter wood system. However, you have to write an example. So you can write an example of a light demanded tree, let's say Pinus Roxburghi, and shade bearer, for example, your sandalwood, that is Santalum album. So Santalum album along with your Pinus Roxburghi can be grown under your uniform shelter wood system. So just explain uniform shelter wood system, but do write an example. That's how you are going to create a difference in the mains examination. So in the next lecture, we will be seeing some other silvicultural systems, some other silvicultural methods. Thank you.